just start with what I started with this morning if you weren't here. I want to thank you so much for coming out today from all over. I've been hearing from where everybody's from, and it's just amazing and humbling to us, and me especially, to see what kind of an amazing community we've built and are going to continue to build and nurture. So thank you so much. We have people from as far as New York, Kentucky, Montana, everywhere, driving and flying, Florida, yes. Yay!
51 and 52. 51 and 52.
So I doubt that people are going to want to go in and shop. We're going to do this little presentation really quickly. No scissors stripping, but it's just quilts. They'll dry. It's fine. So if you haven't heard, my new book just came out this week. Have you gotten yourself a copy yet?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I have all the quotes from the book that I want to show you guys, and talk a little bit about this book, which is number 23 for me, 23rd book. Also the third book in the mixology series, Tribology Mixology. Of course, those previous books, don't worry about them. Some of them are long gone and not available anymore. Plus, they were pre-Stribology rulers. So how much has Stribology rulers changed your lives?
Oh.
Yes, cannot live without them. So this one is the third one in the mixology series. What that means is just I use all of the pre-cut sizes, even though I don't use pre-cuts. I cut all the fabrics myself with my ruler. So 10-inch squares, 5-inch squares, 2.5-inch strips, and 1.5-inch strips. In the second book, I talked a lot about how I have always loved the half yard as a size, and I like to curate my own collections and make my own pre-cuts, cut my own and so which kind of started us in selling the stash builder bundles. So in this book, I wanted to take it further, even though I talked about how you can utilize the stash builder bundle and make 2 quilts from the same bundle, just adding some background fabrics or other things. In this book, I took it a step further and actually made a set of 2 quilts from the same bundle, just to really show. Because there were people that didn't believe me. So I'm going to start off with some of those pairs. I'll have 5 pairs in here. Of course, you could do the same thing, but you can intermix. You don't have to choose the exact same 2 quilts, which is wonderful and fun. So we'll start with the 10-inch square. This one that I'm going to put this. Take this, somebody, out of the rain. It's not waterproof. All right, so we'll start with a quilt that a lot of you have probably seen for a while. This is Jewel. This was one of our retreat quilts for our virtual retreat back in March. So you've probably seen it more so than just from the book. 10-inch squares. And I know this triangle looks kind of scary, but you don't need any special tools or rulers or templates, just the Stribology rulers, because we chop and sew it back together, and then we trim it up to make it really nice and perfect. And nobody knew there was a little bit of or a little skewing with pressing. It's a beautiful thing. So Jewel has a pair, which we also taught at retreat. So one bundle gave you, so I cut my bundle into 10-inch squares and then 2.5-inch strips. So Strippy Stairways is the other pairing, using 2.5-inch strips and just 3 yards of background. You can get 2 lap-size quilts from just one bundle, one 12-piece bundle, and 3 yards, which is why I cut my fabric this way in the store. We're going to speed it up because the trips are getting harder. This is the second pairing. So this is Rosie. I used the Decorum fabric for this one, and background fabric for my lights. So you just pair up 10-inch squares, lights and darks. What's really fun about this one, do you see the little bitty triangles, the little bitty half square triangles? Of course, if you know my techniques, you know that you will not be cutting these or sewing these or anything like that. This happens when you square up the block after just slicing and sewing back together. These tiny little half square triangles appear when you put your blocks together. And they all nest nicely. Should we show the backings too? Did you see the earlier presentation?
Yeah. No.
So we can speed through this one? Yeah. So is Phoenix 2. So if you did the Phoenix quilt along back in November, that was bigger units. This uses 2.5-inch strips. So same pattern, but on a smaller scale. So a lot more fun and a lot more action, just with some background. Next pairing is Katrina with the 10-inch squares. This is my fun, I called it my clown quilt when I was first making it out of this fabric, because it just makes you smile, doesn't it? Now again, all the triangles are safe from losing any points because they all float nicely, and we trim everything up to a perfect square once we are done sewing, and so all the blocks will fit together easily. It's always a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so from the 10-inch squares, the rest of the bundle I cut into 5-inch squares. So this is Tara, and I used 5-inch squares and just some background and some accent fabric. And look how different the fabric looks with just a little breadth of background. So it doesn't look as wild as when you put it all together, which is a really good tip if you have wild fabric or want to do something that gives it more air. It's going to calm everything down. So I was able to make a twin size from the same bundle, a twin size and then the lap size. Who did Elvira back in 2020? Who saw me for the first time during Elvira? A lot of you, right? So this is Elvira 2, smaller version, smaller scale, using 10-inch squares or 5x10s that you can cut, and then just a single fabric for the accent versus having it scrappy. Calms everything down because everything's on a smaller scale and kind of unites all the blocks. So it's going to be a really popular, fun, easy quilt to make. And the pairing I did with that one is I cut my rest of my bundle into 5-inch squares and 2.5-inch strips. So this is Ingrid made with a 5-inch square and then 2.5-inch strips, strip pieced. Super quick and easy quilt, but really fun to puzzle it together with the fabric. And it could be done very scrappy with just leftovers. You just need to have a matching 5-inch square and a strip. So then who did Kimberly just a few weeks ago? Feels like yesterday. So this is the original Kimberly, made with Tulip Tango. Now, if you did the quilt along, of course, and ordered the book ahead of time, you got the 2.0 version and the 3.0 version. So what I did with the rest of my bundle, I cut 2.5-inch strips and 1.5-inch strips. You trying to steal my show or something? And so this is a quilt that was originally in an old book of mine that's out of print and discontinued called Strip On. So I took the blocks, I kind of added a little flair to the accent or the alternate block. And so the 2.5-inch strips are in this block, the 1.5 is in here. And then you just need a focus fabric that is really lovely that you can use for the borders and the blocks. So this is a full size, full queen, I think. Full. All right, so those are my 5 pairings that I did together as a pair, but they could be intermixed. Then we have some 1.5-inch strips, another great scrap buster. All of these strips just came out of my 1.5-inch bin. Don't you all have one? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, you will. And then just a background. So this is just whatever wildness. And then I really wanted to see this quilt on a dark background, making it monochrome. So I'll hold it next to him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I can't bend over. So I did a dark background and then just used grays and did like a little planning with my fabrics to do a little ombre effect, a little 3D. So it's a fun one to play with and a great one just to use up your little scraps. And a great background, of course. Then we have another 10-inch square pattern that is called Zoe. That one is a really fun one to piece because it looks so hard, or so much harder than it is. It has multiple different layouts. So 10-inch squares, so lights and darks, I use scrappy lights for this one. And then my scrappy darks, I just decided to limit it to 2 colors, so it wouldn't be too wild. But you could do multicolor. There's actually another Zoe hanging in the showroom with multicolored. But of course, the little half square triangle in the middle, it all gets created not accidentally. Of course, it's all planned, but you're not sewing any half square triangles. You're just working with rectangles and squares. Because that's more fun, isn't it? And then you square it up and it's all perfect. Another 10-inch square pattern is the Inca. This one is going to be a hot one to make quickly because you can make it in so many different fabrics and have the outcome be so different. So this one is kind of wild, a little contemporary, a little bit modern, made with the glyphs. I used 2 different accent fabrics for this one, but you could also just choose a different colorway, different fabrics, and it turns out more traditional, using a single accent fabric. And so it's a really quick one, uses up the 10-inch square completely, so it's great. We like that, right? Great way to show off the fabric big pieces. All right, we got one more. Last but not least, I always have to have a good scrap buster in the bunch, in every book. So this is Bellatrix, using 2.5-inch and 1.5-inch strips, just lights and darks. And it can be as wild as you want it to be. I went in and just dug out my blacks and grays and oranges, some of them Halloween, not all. And then all my lights range from white to very cream. And some people think that that's not okay, but it's totally okay. You can see how much movement having the variety in the lights does. It just makes it more fun. This one is addicting, I tell you. It's a perfect leader ender. Just once you come up with some strips, make strip sets and keep going until you have enough to make a quilt. So it can be done with multicolored strips. That's actually one that I think I'm going to make another